Hi, my name is Brian Marc Zimberg, and I'm author of Stop, Smile, Breathe, Be, and creator of Access Points, the modern life meditation plan, where we show you how to shift your attention out of the mind, connecting to the most profound piece of meditation. And in that, awakening deeper into your true oneself. From there, living a life of greater joy, happiness, and true self-expression. Even more so, being a contribution as that in the world. In today's video, we're going to take a look at what the root cause of suffering is. What is the root cause of all the struggle in your life? I mean, wouldn't it be great to finally be free of all the worry, fear, doubt, shame? Wouldn't it be great to finally be free of suffering and struggling for life? So what we want to take a look at is, what is the core? You know, so many times you probably have done things to try to get over suffering and stop struggling in life. So if we go to the root of it, we should be able to free yourself in a new way. And that's really what I want for you. It's what you want for yourself, and I'm here for that for you. So the root cause of suffering, if we take a look, is identification with our mind equals separation. You see, the minute we believe our mind, we believe ourselves to be a separate entity. And when we're coming through our minds as a separate entity, that separation equals suffering. Why? Well, let's take a look at this, right? When we're a separate individual, we need to do what? What is the main program of this separate individual? It's to survive. To survive, it has to protect itself, to make sure it's safe, to make sure it's okay. The number one program is always to protect itself and make sure that everything it does is okay, that it'll always be safe. It's always on alert. It's always on the lookout for danger. So it makes sense that fear would run this survival animal. And access points, I like to call it the operating system. It's like the operating system of the mind. Picture, like, you know, a little Apple computer to be put on your mind, and this operating system has some main functionalities. And its first primary objective is protect the body. And as we know in many spiritual circles, though, the body-mind, the ego, what it's called, right? This ego believes itself to be separate, it's self-serving, and in a lot of circles they think you want to get rid of it. We'll have that conversation another time, but it's not worth trying to get rid of your own mind, because the only thing that wants to get rid of the mind is actually the mind. So the root cause of all suffering is separation, is the belief that you are separate. When you are separate, you can be destroyed. And fear is a necessity. If we didn't have fear, imagine that you're in the ocean, there's a shark that starts eating you, you know, and you're having your little spiritual, we're all one. I'm one with everything. Oh, hi, Mr. Shark, as he's eating your leg. Oh, you're eating my thigh. Hi, Mr. Shark. Right? The shark eats you alive, but everything's good and happy. There's no fear. So it's not about getting rid of fear, and it's not that fear is wrong. It's a function of this operating system. But when we believe our emotions and our thoughts to be reality, to be true, to be who we are, then we believe ourselves to be a separate concept, a separate thing that stands alone. And the truth is, you know, right? We're all one. You see, but that thought in itself, although it's nice, isn't going to do it for you. What I want for this show for you always is for you to look at deeper. What is the truth of who you are at the deepest level? What we call your true oneself. That's who you really are. And when you dawn on that, when you awaken to that, when your attention shifts out of the trance of your mind and to that oneness, it just never ends. The beauty of who you really are is revealed, and a full embrace and acceptance comes alive inside of you. Self-love starts to emanate more from yourself. This doesn't mean you become a saint or a perfect person. It means that the burden of suffering of life is lifted You are emancipated from mental slavery. Bob Marley said this so often in his song as he sang it. What was he referring to? Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but yourself can free your mind. What self is he saying can free your mind? Well, what I'm saying is that is your true oneself. And hopefully for many of you already listening right now, you've already touched that. You've felt it. You've experienced that, which is your true oneself. Moment of nature, in a spiritual realization, in a book you read, in an epiphany, in the birth of a child, in the gaze of a loved one, in an awe-inspiring sight. You felt the connectivity of love, of oneness, of something so much greater and bigger than me. Me. So the root of suffering is protecting me. So we all can comprehend and get that the body wants to be protected. The ego structure, the survival animal, the reptilian mind is programmed to protect itself. So the number one thing the survival animal, the operating system, is to protect its physical body. But one of the biggest things, and this is really crucial, that to get this could change everything for you really if you take it in deeply. If you've already dawned on this and realized this, then let's take it even further and deeper. And that is that the ego mind is just as much of it's trying to protect its body and its physical safety to not be destroyed. It's always still trying to protect its identity with the mind of being somebody and someone. A somebody and someone special, different, unique. And that's true in the DNA of who you are. So I'm not putting down your uniqueness. I'm talking about the structure of the functionality of the ego mind that wants to survive. It wants to protect its separate identity. It wants to protect that it's somebody. It can be an inflated somebody, I'm the best somebody, I'm such a good somebody, or the deflated somebody, I'm the worst somebody, I'm the saddest, most depressed person in the world. As long as it substantiates that it is an individual, that it's separate. You see, that's the whole crux of the suffering of kind of what Buddha called life, Buddha said life is suffering. Because the crux of this thing is that the ego structure trying to survive is also trying to make sure that it's not going to have its identity be destroyed, that it's truly somebody and has to substantiate itself into survival and prove that it's somebody. And maintaining itself as a separate individual, it also maintains suffering. Because if you're a separate individual, then you can be destroyed. So the question we really want to ask ourselves is, do you want to just survive or do you want to thrive? To survive equals the fear and the worry and the doubt and the anxiety of protecting itself. And to thrive means to live from your true oneself, that which is one with everything, that which has the overflowing of love and peace and centered, always here, always full, fulfilled. So if we want to thrive and live from there, we have to see how do we stay stuck in our minds, which keeps us separate. See, what it comes down to, you'll hear me often say that what meditation really is shifting your attention out of your mind. And the moment we learn to shift our attention off of our mind to awareness itself, we discover the truth of infinite peace. We discover the core of who we are. From there we can thrive. So if it's stuck in our mind, our attention, how does the mind keep us stuck as a separate self? How can we finally be free of that and therefore be free of suffering? So what if you don't believe in the construct and the concept of who you are? The story of me, the story of you. See, we're born and we're told we have a name. And then we believe that name. And the program begins, right? Your parents tell you what life is about, what life will look like, who you should be, what you may be what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad. What are you going to be when you grow up? We go to school and we learn about winning and losing, really getting it right and getting it wrong. And all of a sudden there's something to maybe be ashamed of or something we have to prove. And even more layer gets put on top of us. And religion, society tells us how things should look and what is good and what is right, what is wrong, how I'm supposed to be, who I am. All concepts and ideas that build this idea of me. And then, we rebel against all that. Forget all that. I believe this and I think this. But think about how many times in your life have you for sure believed something when you were younger, and then some years later you totally disagree with what you believed then. So the funny thing is that even when we rebel against it, we're actually substantiating it. What are we really saying? We're saying that this is me and I disagree. Everything is built in the ego structure to substantiate me as a separate individual. And the hope for mankind, let alone for your own peace and your own self-love, to evolve, to awaken, is to transcend me. Not by getting rid of the mind, but by starting to recognize the main patterns of the mind that keep your attention stuck in the mind, that keep you separate, therefore in struggle and in suffering. So one of the key takeaways really here is to notice that the root of suffering is to start noticing. Just start noticing how much the mind is trying to create that it's somebody, that it's something. And the more we start seeing the parading of the mind like that, the more we'll start to kind of pull out of the mind. The more we become aware of that pattern, the more we become awareness itself. We start awakening. The mind is trying so hard to maintain that it is real, because when we look in deeper, when we investigate deeply in, we find the non-existence of ourselves. And this doesn't have to be so esoteric. Let's just look at the idea of like this table that I'm looking at here, something you're looking at in front of you. We know that deeper in, if we go closer, there's a bunch of atoms bouncing around. We know if we go in deeper, there's basically waves and particles, and there's actually more nothing there than there's a table there, but yet a table is here. So too, as we have this kind of agreement that this is here, this table is here, we have an agreement that you're here. You have an agreement that you're here. And we keep buying into that agreement. And that is what some people call the trance, right? Like the matrix idea. But yet, the table's here and it's not here, so too are you. But to be free of the mind means you move into a dance in this beautiful, momentary period of your life. It's going to have a beginning and it's going to have an ending. And when we move closer to that awareness, we find that we are one with everything. And it's not because you believe it. It's not because you've experienced it before. And it's not because you read it in some book or because I'm saying it. What I want for you more than anything is for you to know without a doubt. So that at any moment, fear could arise, worry can arise, but your ability to shift to your true oneself and experience the core of peace can be available to you right now in this moment. So let's take a look at one of the main features of this operating system that keeps us identified with our mind. See, the survival mode, the mind, in order to protect itself, always is labeling things. It always has a label, a compartment, a dissection. It's constantly labeling things, separating them, compartmentalizing them, and putting them where they belong. All mostly based on our past experiences, which are usually imprinted by more negative things than positive things, and all to protect ourselves and equate what's going on here. For example, they say smell the roses. But the truth of the matter is, when you go to smell a rose, what's really happening? Your mind remembers past flowers. If there was a rose back there, it remembers that rose. It already knows what it's going to look like. It already tells your mind what it's going to feel like. And when you're going in for the smile, it's already telling you it's going to smell like a rose. Perhaps in the instant of the smell, there's a moment of experience. But beyond that, there's just the past telling you what this is. It's already separating you even from the direct experience of the moment. When the mind is dissecting, when it's ripping things apart, labeling things, it's like whipping a knife around. It's constantly separating. It's actually kind of violent. See, the thing is, we are always filtering life through our thoughts and through our emotions. And that's equating the labeling of what reality in life is about. We've all had that experience when we look out at a beautiful sunset. The moment we're looking at a beautiful sunset, it's like awe-inspiring and we're connected and it's gorgeous. And we're just experiencing this beautiful vista. And then our mind says, it's beautiful. And that thought, though there's nothing wrong with that thought, and it is beautiful, it already takes us one step out of the experience of that awe-inspiring moment. That moment where we feel infinitely connected, endlessly at peace with everything. The mind says, it's beautiful, and we step away. And what the mind is constantly doing in its labeling and dissecting of things is constantly bringing us one step away from the real moment. This present moment that is now, we never get to experience this reality because we're always in our heads one step away from it. Either going into the future, into the past, but ultimately identify with a separate self. And that's the entire strategy of the ego, is to protect that somebody. So what we have to recognize is that the mind is trying to get rid of thoughts. Often on this journey in meditation or awakening and just in the daily life of chatter, we want to quiet our mind. And here we're looking to shift out of our mind, disengage from the thoughts. So it's really important that we notice the constant labeling that's going on. If we notice the labeling, the dissecting, the compartmentalizing, start noticing that it's happening. Not that it's right or wrong, because it's happening. That's just a function of the operating system, the survival animal. The more we see that happening, the more we're aware of it, the more we'll recognize that that's not who I am. So Lao Tzu, when he wanted to die, the great Tao patriarch, the writer of the Tao Te Ching, he wanted to go off and die in peace. But the king of the land said, no, you can't go because you have to give us this wisdom that you've realized. We have to know what it is that you know. So he was forced actually to sit down and to write the Tao Te Ching. So in the first line of the Tao Te Ching, it says something in the sorts of that when I am going to use words to describe the nature of things, the nature of things being the reality of life, this oneness we're talking about, I am going to use words to describe the reality of life. And since words are part of nature, I'm going to use words to describe nature, and since words are part of nature, basically what I'm about to say isn't it. So he denounces the entire Tao in the first line, because it's words he's using to describe that which can't be described. In the same way, your mind is always trying to capture and figure out and tell you what it knows and what it is and substantiate itself as a separate entity, which again we said equals your suffering. So what we want to start doing is taking a look at these concepts. We want to notice that it labels. We want to notice that you're believing concepts about yourself, and you got to get this, because this is the craziest thing of all this journey that you've been on, is that your mind will never get this. It's another insidious pattern of this operating system. It's always trying to get it, right? Like the carrot, dog chasing its tail. We hear these ideas, but if we break it down, that's all this is. You see, the mind can never get the infinite, because how can the finite grab the infinite? The truth is, you are already infinite. And who you are embraces all things. allows the planets to be in the sky, the sun to rise every day, your breath at this moment now happening. You'll never get this, but by noticing awareness, by noticing these patterns, we'll step out of our own suffering and we can have this shift. This shift is palpable and is here for you deeper and deeper right now. So, Awake Life, in this show, we are here to really take a look at not just what it is to come out of the trance of being a separate individual in the world of suffering, but what is it to evolve in our oneness, to align ourselves with the greatest expression and talents of who we are as a surrendered self, as our true oneself and into the world. And then what is it to not only realize and have this realization, but what is it to live as a human being in this world awake? So all you need to really do is simply start noticing. Your mind's labeling, your mind's dissecting, it's trying to figure it out. The more you notice those things, the more you're going to pull away from it. So I want to do a little exercise with you, because what it comes down to is we want to start noticing that we are always being, that all the concepts, all the labels, all the ideas of who you are, man, woman, mother, lover, all the ideas of what's right and wrong, good, bad, all the concepts that aren't going to be it, that will not describe the nature of things. All these concepts aren't you. That who you really are is free of thought. Before the thought, you are. Right now, always you are. You are beyond any concept. You are beyond all limitation. You are limitless, and only concepts are all limited. It can never describe the entire Tao because it's already limited. And you are the Tao. You are the wholeness of everything. When you recognize that, you shift. See, you're not limited to a part that cannot describe the whole. You're not limited to a concept. You are way more than a concept. You're not your thoughts. You're not your feelings. You're not your body. They are here. They are you. And you are way more. You are that which is one with everything. And all we really need to notice is the simple sense that we are. We let our attention move out of the mind to the simple sense that we are. And access points have created these ways of shifting. And the more we begin to notice the patterns that keep us addicted to our mind, the more we can notice that the center is right here, right now. So I'd like to do an exercise with you. Simple exercise, but I'd like you to just take a breath in through your nose. Out of your mouth. Always good to let a good sigh out. So I just want you to pay attention. Really pay attention. Now listen, you've done many breathing exercises out there. I want to make a point with this that's an experiential point. So play along, okay? So breathe in through your nose, and I want you to feel it, the breath coming into your nostrils. You'll feel on the tip of your nostrils, and just pay attention as it hits your nostrils, and then breathe out and feel it as it's coming out of your nostrils. In through your nose, out through your nose. In, feeling it, and then out. It can be easier. Now pay attention closely to your breath this time. Breathing again, paying attention closely to your breath this time. And what's before your breath? See, now we're going to do this again. When I say what's before your breath, it doesn't need a mental answer. Just focus on your breath, and then when you inhale your breath, when I say what's before your breath, just look right before it. Look what is right before the breath. So ready? Focusing your breath in, focus on your breath out. Again, focus on your breath in, Attention on your breath out. Now look, what is before your breath? See, for a moment there, you'll notice that you just are, that there's being, that there's nothing really there. There's this spaciousness. My friend the other day, as I was doing this with him, he said, me, my inside. But he didn't mean inside his body. He just meant that this inside that doesn't have an end or a beginning, this inside that is him. Who you are is being. You see, let's take breath further. Have you ever had to do a thing to breathe? Have you ever had to do anything to breathe? Breathing is happening. You've never had to do a thing to be either. The simple sense that you are, that's you. The simple sense that you are is unchanging. The simple sense that you are is free, really, of labels, and it's free of suffering right now. So I have an exercise for you to do. You can do it today, tomorrow, when you're going to take a walk. Just go take a walk. It can be a 2-minute walk to do this exercise. When you go take a walk, and I want you to, your mind might be wherever. You might be on what you just did at work, what you got to do later on. But then I want you to bring your mind to looking down at the grass and see the blades of grass. And if your mind isn't right away already labeling them as it looks short, it's too long, it's green, start helping your mind labeling it. So look at the grass and just start labeling it. Start labeling what you're seeing. The sidewalk, that sidewalk, it's gray. Okay? You know, play along. Let your mind label. It doesn't take much to get it going because it does it anyways. Kind of start dissecting and analyzing what you're seeing. You see what I'm saying? And then do that with everything that you're seeing, and then come along to a tree. And I want you to look at that tree and just notice what your mind has to say about it. It's brown, it has green leaves, it has red leaves. It's a young tree, it's an old tree, whatever your mind has to say about it. I want you just to stare at a tree for a moment and just notice what your mind has to say about it. And then notice, just like that breathing exercise we just did, that are you here? Do you have to do anything in that moment to breathe when you're looking at the tree? Do you have to do anything in that moment to be? Now your mind will have labels about yourself and conversations about yourself, but about the tree, as it's labeling it, does all the labels about the tree stop it from being a tree? Of course not, right? You gotta go out and do this though. All the labels about the tree doesn't stop it from being a tree. And as your mind is labeling the tree, does it stop you from being? Start noticing more and more the labeling, dissectings of mind. And what you're going to find is that freedom from all suffering is in not believing your thoughts any longer. Coming out of your thoughts is the path. And we do that by noticing these patterns and by recognizing that we are, by moving our attention to what is now, to being with that we are. Stop, smile, breathe, be. The key here is don't believe your mind. You're moving into a way of no longer believing your mind and its comments on you and your circumstances and your relationship to this moment being based on the reality of concepts and words. Lao-Tzu didn't think it was good enough to describe the entire Tao. Surely no concept or idea about yourself, or inner words about yourself, or concepts of anything else are good enough to describe you. Suffering can end for you. Struggle of life can end for you when you don't buy into it, when you don't hook into it, when you don't hook into the conversation in general, when you don't hook into the labeling, when you don't hook into the trying to solve a problem and get a solution. When we shift our attention and notice what is already being, we're free from suffering. We're free from believing we are separate. The truth is you're not separate. The truth is you're not separate. You're that which is already whole. You're that which is complete, infinite, now. And you don't have to do a thing to be that. You are that. So go out there and start noticing the labeling, the dissecting, and how your mind's doing all this. It's really going to be helpful, I can promise you, just to notice that it's going on. You'll start more and more pulling out of it. And instead of pulling out of reality, you'll start pulling out of your mind, and you'll start stepping more into the moment, into reality. That'll happen naturally as you start to begin this process of noticing this major pattern of trying to be somebody and something, the conversations about you and who you are and what you are, you in relation to the world, you in relationship to circumstances, and the dissecting and the labeling. Notice that and check out that exercise I offer to you, and I think you're going to find a treasure in that and come back closer and closer home to your true oneself, deeper awakening to who you really are. And as we awaken to who we are, we join others who are dawning on the truth. And as we come together as a world of awakening, this movement of awakening, we become the people that are on the leaders, that are the people on the edge of life, that are willing to be the greatest contribution of who you are and your greatest talents offered into the world from your true oneself. So until next time, here's to living an awake life from your true oneself and into the greatest expression of you. Hey everyone, it's Brian Marc. Did you like this episode? Be sure to subscribe to the next one and tell a friend about us. If you want free seminars and world-class training on modern meditation and spiritual development, visit me at brianmarc.com and enter your name and email for our newsletter list. Until next time, here's to living an awake life from your true oneself and into the greatest expression of you.